Once again, we have our highlights, and we'll come back to them in a moment just to treat this as a hidden main idea task as opposed to trying to go and hunt and peck for any specific details that would take too long. But we're going to read the task first. And whenever you have an exception, you're going to want to read the task and highlight in two different colors. So we see both passage A and B express a favorable attitude toward, and I'm going to highlight that as the task, but I'm going to highlight the word except so that I know exactly what I have to do, which is choose the one answer choice that does not accomplish the task of identifying something that both passage A and B express a favorable attitude toward. So once again, we're not going to engage the passage in full. We're just going to reread our highlighted sentences for the purposes of this video more than anything else, since you might be watching this independently, but we'll make sure we've got our overall understanding and then start working through the answer choices. Charles Darwin is a sterling example of someone who understood the essential tension in science between commitment to the well-established theories and explanations that constitute the scientific status quo and willingness to explore and accept new and sometimes strange ideas. It is this tension that underlies the understanding of the history of science as a series of paradigm shifts, in which a set of ideas and theories becomes well-established and widely accepted over time, only to be quickly overturned and replaced by a radically new set of ideas and theories. Three characteristics of Darwin's intellect and personality mark him as a scientist who found the right balance in this essential tension, a balance that helped him accomplish a major paradigm shift. Scientists need to exhibit at least three modes of thought: curious, creative, and critical. A and T, who we're just using their initials for to avoid mispronouncing and wasting time trying to figure out how to pronounce. So A and T have been curious in examining strange patterns found in their early observations. They have been creative in trying to devise an interpretation of their results, and they have been critical of their own work by seeking new observations and encouraging others to make independent observations. However, the astrophysics community has by and large applied only the critical mode of thought to the same problem. There have been some attempts to reproduce A and T's results with mixed success, but the general attitude has been it cannot happen, therefore it does not happen, instead of the more open, if it does happen, it can happen. So we want to just work through the answer choices, eliminating those things that A and B do express a favorable attitude towards without rereading anything else as best we can. So do A and B express a favorable attitude toward the individual scientist or scientists they discuss? Absolutely. Like passage B is very big on A and T, and passage A likes Darwin. So that is something that has a favorable attitude. And you can see I'm doing it in pink because those ones do not follow the except. You can use the yellow or the pink. Just make sure you're using a color to highlight the reasons to eliminate as you're working through the answer choices. Then independent thinking by scientists. Well, the entire point is the independent thinking. So this is something they do express a favorable attitude toward. So we're going to eliminate choice B. Seriously considering the observations of other scientists. Well, right here, we're thinking about the other scientists and we go, well, yeah, they did have that correspondence of working through the new observations and encouraging others to make their own independent observations in the A and T second paragraph right here. And everything about Darwin was about being open to other opinions. So that certainly seems like something that they would have a favorable attitude towards in terms of the authors. Then choice D, commitment to the scientific status quo. Well, here, and this is where you might actually switch your highlighting color and go, wait a minute, this is the one that's the exception. And I probably should have highlighted considering the observations of the other scientists as a thing that A and B absolutely do commit to. But they're absolutely more interested in these scientists who do the opposite of the status quo. So once again, this is, although it's an exception type question, it's still a hidden main idea task. I don't have to go reread, but I have to be careful about making sure I choose the outlier as opposed to one of the answer choices that affirmatively accomplish the task of expressing a favorable attitude for these two authors. And then lastly, choice E, consideration of evidence apparently counter to one's views. Well, yes, that was everything in this section about figuring out whether or not it was correct, incorrect, and they're trying to determine ultimately whether it's Darwin or A&T what the right answer to the science is by soliciting the opinions of others. So we get choice D here, and you can see how with these exception tasks, make sure you highlight what you're supposed to do in one color, the exception task in the other,